Hello, Music Multiverse listeners, and welcome to yet another catalog review show. Yeah, we didn't cheapen it on this on December. We're still catalog review show once a month. The band tonight is one of brand and band status. They continue to this day because of their tie-dye jammin' rock, country, blues, and jazzy blends that have delighted about as many people as McDonald's claims to have served over the years. They were a band that appreciated the world before them in music and the world around them at the time. They were champions of live music and then some, more to probably than any other band in history, and with more releases in that vein than any band probably in the world. And tonight we're going to count them down until the world ends. No, we're not going to rank the live albums of this band because there's not enough time in a lifetime. Tonight, we explore, remember, and rank the studio albums and the catalog of the thankful deceased, the indebted departed, the obligated perished. Oh, yeah, right. Members like Jerry Garcia, Bill Kritzman, Phil Lesh, Ron Pigman McKernan, Bob Weir, Mickey Hart, Robert Hunter. Oh, what do we got? Tom Constantin. Don't know him. I think he was he a piano, right?
Maybe he was, yeah.
Perry Barlow, Keith Godshaw, Donna Jean Godshaw, Brent Mylan. Godchuck. Oh, okay. So that's they weren't French. They weren't French. And Vince Welnick.
I feel like this is the 68 Yankees being announced.
Yes.
and pinch hitter Bruce Hornsby.
There you go. And then
John Mayer.
Batting cleanup.
The only person this group's missing is Don Henley.
Right.
This is the catalog review show of course, The Grateful Dead. 1960 fusers using rock, blues, jazz, folk, country, bluegrass, rock and roll, gospel, reggae, world music, psychedelia. Is there more? Did they use classical? Probably. A band that's live catalog and performances are beyond legendary. As a matter of fact, some of those albums are sought after. One of them being Buffalo. So imagine that, sought after Buffalo. A devoted following that have the nickname of the Deadheads. I mean, you get a nickname for your people that follow you, and that says it all, doesn't it? This band, for sure, are the pioneer godfathers of the jam band world, and I can honestly say, in the jam band world of all time, is there anybody that's even close? Probably not. They might have the most spin-offs in history, right? Want to know how many? 23, last count. 23 bands from those people I mentioned. Anyway, our ship of fools on tonight's show. Yeah, that's right. That's right. St. Stephen Scoutin. Yeah, St. Stephen. Yeah, I'm going to use this stuff. It's coming.
Hey.
Yeah, he wore tie-dye underwear just for this occasion. The Grateful Dude. No? Okay. She's an innocent bystander looking for education from the educated prophets of this catalog review show, Susie Q. He was told there would be 15 explanations of what the Mississippi half-step uptown Toodaloo is. Alex Kaluzny.
What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. He finally used that box of rain he's been saving on scarlet begonias. Ray Geska. So here we are at a coveted band in all the music, and I'm going to let the Grateful Dude start us off with his talk about the band, your introduction, your moment, and then your number 13. I should have told people we're doing 13 studio albums. No live, obviously, and we're not throwing the lives. I don't know what you'd call them, in between studio records that, don't get me wrong, they're amazing, and they probably might be where somebody should start if they were going to get into the Dead, maybe, or maybe there is an album that is quintessential, but we'll get there. The Grateful Dude, the floor is yours.
Well, this is kind of a weird subject for me because in my book, there's no difference in any of the dead. They're all great. Um, there's a lot of people who disagree with me. I've had arguments up to 2 hours arguing with people about the validity of the dead. Um, but I've given it a lot of thought, and I've been able to give you my opinion. And because none of what the six of us say is going to be fact, because um, it's just way too subjective to say that this album is better than that album. So with that, all that said, my number 13 is going to be Blues for Allah. I is one of the hardest to listen to albums. I still think it has good points, but it's one of those kind of things where you can't really put your finger on it. My number 12 is going to be Built to Last, which is their last album. And then my number 11 will be Go to Heaven. My number 10 is In the Dark.
Okay. So
And
that's right. 9, 13, 12, 11, and 10. Perfect. Perfect. So with that, we'll move over to Ray Geska.
Hey, how we doing, Music First listeners? Well, for me, the Grateful Dead was really never on my radar, to be honest with you, until like the late 80s when the big comeback album came out. And then I never started loving them as much as I do now until, honestly, the iTunes era, which I'd have to say was probably around 2008. That's when I started downloading full libraries and started digging the Dead as well as Dylan and others, which I really never got much into previously. The Dead always had that bit of a stigma, for lack of a better word, for them. All the dudes that, and those of you that are old enough in Western New York, all the dudes that hung out at Broadway Joe's on Maine and Minnesota and Buffalo weren't really my crowd very much. So I never really got into the Dead because we were banging our heads at that time. But fast forward to the new century, and I really start appreciating the grooves of the Dead. And I will also add that aside from just a few albums, I never really found them to be a great album band, a studio album that is, where I found the greatest joy and the greatest appreciation were truly on those live records. So, Europe 72, Dozing at the Nick, and Live Dead, and many of the bootleg live albums where my true appreciation lies. But Ray, the instructions are to rank the studio albums, and I will follow the orders here. So, what do you
Yes.
want? 13, 12, 11? Is that right?
13, 12, 11, and 10.
Okay, 13 through 10. All right. So we'll start off with 13. I'm going with 1968's release, Anthem of the Sun. The sound in the album just not good. Sounded like it was just being rehearsed. Not very appealing. Not a standout for me. Didn't really care for the album much at all. Number 12, 1980's Go to Heaven. Didn't do much for me either. It seemed like a true throwaway, almost like, outtakes. I don't know what it was, but diehards will find something good in it, I'm sure, but just not much for me either. Number 11 then would be Built to Last. Couldn't get a good feel or a vibe on this one either, really figure it out. Was it their attempt at what is now known as yacht rock? I mean, I was kind of feeling like a yacht rock vibe almost, but overall, just a completely forgettable album for me. So I think those three I can do without. the top 10, I think I'll find a little bit more value in there for me. But that's my
You do
That's
have number
13, 12, and 11. I need one more.
you do have
wait,
number
number 10. Okay. Number 10, got to give tribute to the long-standing and soon closing head shop at Hurdle and Virgil, known as Terrapin Station. Got to hope that the Jerry mural doesn't go away like the shop. As for the album of the same name, some decent grooves to keep you doing the deadhead dance. Steve and I might call it the Zell's dance after my deadhead neighbor Jim. Um, Definitely not my favorite version or remake of Dancing in the Streets, mind you. Terrapin Station Part 1 goes on a bit too long, but I do like Samson and Delilah, the song that is. So Terrapin Station in at number 10.
Yeah, we'll kind of slip back into some when we talk. I'll let Steve come in now.
Yeah, so my introduction to the Dead goes back to kind of senior year of high school, and then on into college where I got further and further into them. First Dead show was '89 at Giant Stadium with my my close friends Little Feat opening, and I think in that time I was just as psyched to see Little Feat as I was the Grateful Dead. And then I was at the '93 show here at the stadium when Sting opened, and
Wow.
of those 23 cast
Offshoots.
of the Dead, I've seen my share of them. And yeah, I kind of jumped right in as I've gotten older. Yeah, just I appreciate the music. I appreciate the history. I appreciate their ability to go, to not be classified in a genre. They're a little jazzy. They're a little funky. They're a little folksy. They're a little country. They're very bluesy. And as you'll see in some of my rankings, some of their psychedelic, I guess I'd call it, in the later '60s into the start of the '70s. Not a huge fan of, and that'll come across in my rankings. But again, the beauty of the Grateful Dead is that their music and their genre bending kind of paralleled the time that they were in. You go to something like "Go to Heaven," which I'll bring up here shortly. That was right in the middle of the disco era.
Yeah.
And if you look at the cover, they're all dressed in white suits like they're the Bee Gees. So, so I'll start right off like everybody else has. My number 13, much like Brother Ray, is Anthem of the Sun. For me, not the greatest album at all. First one with Mickey Hart. The banger I like on there is Alligator, but it was critically reviewed. That psychedelic sound was considered, avant-garde at the time. So, it was really, looked upon as a kind of a trend-setting album. Something where, they used the kazoo, they used the harpsichord, they used timpani. But again, not for me, myself, not one of the ones I'd have really high. As a matter of fact, I have it at the bottom. And then number 12, I go to the ass opposite end of their studio albums. I go to Built to Last. Again, coming off of In the Dark, which was, their highest ranked Billboard album of all times. Built to Last came in at 27. I like the title track, and I like Victim or the Crime. It's a really good tune. But again, you could, that was a point in time for me where I was more into the live stuff, and not necessarily the live stuff of the time, but we'll get into the live stuff at the end. I just have a couple to throw out there, but Built to Last was my number 12. My number 11 is from 1973. It's Wake of the Flood. Again, for me, like Jeff said, none of them are bad. each of them have a little bit that I do like. The reason I have Wake of the Flood so low is I'm not a huge fan of Donna Jean Goshow, and when she came into the band, um,
Yeah.
that's and I don't know if Jeff agrees with me or not, but when Donna joined, I was as I started to learn the music, I'm like, damn it, here's another Donna song. Uh, so, but again, that album has Road Jimmy on it, which is, to see them in concert or to listen to their live stuff, or and even Dead and Company these days when they cover Road Jimmy's just a great tune, and yeah, and also noteworthy of Wake of the Flood is the first album they made under their own label, Grateful Dead Records. So and if I go to number 10, my number 10 is Go to Heaven. Brett Mylan's first album with the band. He jumps right in and has a song on vocals. Again, Alabama Getaway is probably their big hit off there. My favorite is Althea. Just a classic Dead song. The critics kind of termed it average to below average. I kind of go with that. Another song I like from there that they play that's kind of a live favorite is Lost Sailor, which is another one I really enjoy. But when you put Go to Heaven up against some of the ones that'll be further down the list, it doesn't cut the mustard. So that's my first four.
Sue and Alex are kind of in this. They wanted to absorb and kind of, this is one of America's big bands. This is an institution, and radio play wasn't their thing. San Francisco, San Francisco knew what was going on. San Francisco knew what was going on so much they showed up in a backyard, if they had to, by the gaggle. So they had their ear on that sound, and at that point, that's where it was, and then it exploded, obviously. For me, obviously at my age, it's an exploration going backwards. Yes, the first time I had an inkling of theirs was only just records in a record store. Obviously, most of them, I believe, the first one I saw was a live record. It wasn't a studio album. The first one I ever purchased was a live record. So it's something to get into. I will tell you this. Going back, and I don't know whether this is true for Ray. I don't know whether this is true for Steve, but I have a hard time realizing who the lead vocalist is in a lot of this.
That you're not wrong. It is difficult.
Okay. I agree with a certain YouTuber who made the comment that keyboard wise, they've never had a very good vocalist in that realm, and that until they got obviously Bruce Hornsby. So, but again, that's not studio, that's live. So lyrically, a lot of things get lost unless they're in the rootsy part. All right. And the shuffle. Jerry can shuffle. He's a shuffler. And that to me is his essential to me. And I think that's where I get drawn in. I think there's even that, when you think of that In the Dark album and that Touch of Gray, there's a shuffle to it, and it just somehow caught. That's their pop record. They've had more pop records than that, but anyway, that's where I stand with them. And I've been going back ever since. Say again?
I want to say one thing off that too. Already, just from hearing the descriptions on the bottom four albums from these guys, I think that was also a little bit of my hesitation. I know pre-show I'd mentioned to these guys, for the listeners, that I used to think they were a logo and a brand before I ever knew that they made music. Just given where I grew up and I think someone brought up a great point. There was never really much radio play. So for a young listener like me who can maybe even catch a stray band here or there that's a one-hit wonder, they were never that for me. Um, hell, I think probably the most of my knowledge of the Grateful Dead came from knowing Jerry Garcia as a brand of tie now. So
I thought you were going to give it the ice cream side too, because that's another one that wound up being everywhere. Right?
Also true.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that for a second, but I remember seeing it now. So I think that was maybe part of my hesitation in my music journey, as I had to look back in part of my catalog, what was pre 1993. Just given that there's, this isn't Rush. You can't just name Pure Lifeson and Geddy Lee. Like, 18 different people. And I think it's nice to hear Steve even kind of calling out like at least one of them is almost like an era of the band when someone joined. Like that's already where I'm learning from this experience and why I just wanted to kind of be here in the cheap seats.
Yeah. Mickey Hart's joining in that particular album is kind of an essential in a reason, but we'll get there. So for me, being that you go back, and there's a lot there. Agree with Chef Jeff that there are no bad albums. There are just times, and whether those times continued, right? I would assume, and again, I've never seen them live, and I'm not sure if I ever will, depending if those songs are translated the same way live anymore, even on the albums that we've put at the back or the albums we put at the front, 1967, 68 to 1980, whatever, like my number 13 is Go to Heaven. And I'm putting it there just for the cover. Dear God, man, just have some dignity. You're the Grateful Dead. You don't need to be the Bee Gees. Shit, no one wants to be the Bee Gees. I will never buy a Bee Gees record. Oh, dear God. Somebody let go of his testicles, for crying out loud. Why would you even want to go that route? I don't get it.
I've seen the Bee Gees.
Geez, after that review, first came the Bee Gees, then came the heebie-jeebies.
I bet you they had a wind machine too. I mean, Jerry's hair is teased. What's going on here? Oh, come on, right?
They did it all. They did it all as a publicity stunt.
Yeah,
all of it.
Right. I listen. In this one, it's about the playing of the band. The band's play is really good on the record. The lyrical composition and shit, garbage. I'm wondering if when they play this, if they jam out and don't say a word. I wouldn't know, but that for me, it didn't stand out at all. Built to Last. I love the idea that last wound up being in the wording of a record that would be the last. That's kind of interesting. Again, this is another album where I'm not drawn to the vocal arrangement because I'm losing. I don't know who is singing. I really don't. And that's one thing I've always had an issue with, even in the weeks that I've gone and listened to these records over the last time. This one's going to be a shocker, and I think it's because I dance. Terrapin Station. There's just too much dance stuff. I don't know what's happening. You know how they say Bob and Groove? Is this Bob Weir and Groove? I don't. I have that. I don't know why, because when I think of the Grateful Dead, besides that live album with the head, as we've been showing here, I think that's the album I immediately. That might have been the album I heard after Into the Dark, or In the Dark. So it's shocking to me because I thought I would have had that way farther up. And as I started going back again in my older years, I'm finding a little bit difference in my musical opinion toward this. And I'm wondering if I do this while I'm in the nursing home and go through this list again, if it'll be different. My number 10 is Shakedown Street for the exact same reason. You want to do disco, and while there is some jam and they do it their way, it's not for me. But again, it's not at the end. it's sort of moved up from the end, right? And it to me, it's better than Terrapin Station. I'm sure that's sacrilege. I'm going to get booed, but again, that's where I stand. So there's my 13, 12, 11, and 10, and no BJ's. Back to the Grateful Dude. 9, 8, 7, 6, and 5.
Wow. Okay, my number 9 is Anthem of the Sun.
Mm.
I still think it's a great album. I have a lot of good memories of that, but in the rankings, these rankings were very, very difficult for me. I thought for about 3 hours on them.
Wow.
After that, Oxymoxosis. That one is a straight.
Oxymoxoa.
Yeah. That one definitely has weirdness in it, but it's still a good album. And then my number 8,
7.
8, no 8.
Number 7.
You just
9
need
was Anthem of the Sun. 8, Oxymoxoa.
Oh, okay.
Number 7.
7 would have to be from the Mars Hotel.
Yeah.
Again, it's a good album. I'm pinching at straws right now. Yeah, the difference between good and bad.
Were you ever at the Mars Hotel?
No.
Okay.
You are definitely splitting hairs on these, and I can tell because there's like a little bit of pain in you every time you name an album.
Yeah, pretty much. I should not have done this. For all my dead friends are going to scream at me now.
He's crying. He's crying. Well, it'll be great when they all chime in. You can take the banter.
Okay.
You're only being held to this as your word in your final evaluation of the Dead ever.
Number 6, be their first album, Grateful Dead. It was a good album, but it is not my favorite album. So that's all I'll say on that.
Garage rock, right? Where it all starts, pretty much.
Well, yeah, it was a good album. It was I remember listening to it in 68 was when I got into the Dead. It was 68. And I thought it was a good album, but I didn't have much to choose from then. Here. Except for the 3,000 million trillion bootlegs there's around. There's bootlegs from
back then, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, bootlegs
there were
from
2 albums before this, so yeah.
From I think their first actual album they released is the Warlocks was on tape only, and it was in '66.
Yep, I would agree with that.
I got one more, right, Mark?
Number 5.
Number 5. American Beauty.
Okay.
And I'll let Ray continue from here.
Yeah. All right, Ray. 98765.
All right.
Easy, McConaughey.
All right, so we're starting at number 9. So number 9, Fire on the Mountain itself might have been the track that lifted this album into the top 10. Title track and Good Lovin' were fun jams on the album Shakedown Street. But yeah, like Mark said, this was their, while the Stones were doing Miss You and Kiss was doing I Was Made for Loving You and other examples of the time, Grateful Dead was doing Shakedown Street. Definitely an attempt at disco. Definitely a catchy tune, fun tune, but other than that, one of their lesser appealing studio efforts in my mind. So Actually, I just pulled this up here, so I want to make sure that I get it right. Oxo Moxoa.
Yep. Moxa
The
Moxoa.
1969 release. It's actually pretty decent, a big improvement over the prior anthem, prior album, Anthem of the Sun. But still, it seemed like they were just trying things out at that point, as opposed to really putting together a solid final product. I mean, a few standout tracks that were featured many times over the years in concerts, ain't Steven Scout and Dupree, China Cat, Sunflower on there, but overall, just not really an album, which tended to be the feel as I go through these with the Dead, and especially in the late '60s. There, it just seemed to feel like it wasn't really an album; it was just a collection of songs.
Could it
Number
be the
seven.
psychedelics talking?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Was it something? I mean, I can pick out a handful of psychedelic songs, I think, from the era. Crichton would tell us about, all the wonderful sounds of this band or that band, but yeah, I don't know. I was never a huge fan of the era, so to speak. Some
Hmm.
things stood out, but other things definitely didn't. That takes us to number
Number seven.
seven. Their 1974 release seemed to me like a different groove from the Mars Hotel I'm talking about.
Yep.
Felt more funky on this one. Jerry handled almost all the lead vocals on this album. U.S. Blues is a really special track on this album. Really one of my favorite overall Dead tunes, I would have to say. China Doll was great, as was Scarlet Begonias. And a really hard to dislike Ship of Fools on there as well were really standouts for me. So started to get better by this album. I think through the catalog as I get it up to number seven, it's starting to trend upwards from the previous ones that just I don't know, just never really made a huge difference. Steve mentioned too that Wake of the Flood, the first album was their first album on their own record label. Really started to like this album the more I listened to it over I don't know, past 20 years, we'll say, since I really discovered what it was. Weather Report Suite on there, Road Jimmy, both standout tracks. Mississippi Half Step, Uptown Toodaloo. Definitely hard not to like that track as well. So, Wake of the Flood in at number six. Am I going another one here?
Number five.
All right, number five. Um, I wasn't really familiar with this one at all till I went through all of the albums in preparation for this and gave this one a good thorough listen. And I honestly couldn't stop listening to this one. I've listened to it a couple of times. It had the sound that I think overall really seemed to draw me to the Dead through their live recordings. I'm talking about the '75 release Blues for Allah.
Mhm.
Help on the Way, and one of my favorite tracks of all the Dead songs is Franklin's Tower. Those two lead the way. And I did see a survey of Deadheads taken at one point that found this one to be their favorite studio album after the two 1970 releases. So number five, I'll give to Blues for Allah.
It's a cool cover too.
Yeah.
Steve, Saint Steve.
So you bring up cool covers. So your timing is perfect again, Mark, because my number nine album, and you'll ask yourself, why am I going to talk about Courtney Love during a Grateful Dead catalog show? Courtney Love claimed to be on this cover. Turns out it was actually Billy Kreutzmann's daughter on the cover. But Courtney Love claimed to be on it. Another cool aspect about this album is that one of the guys that was who sat in on some of it was Vince Guaraldi, and y'all
Yes.
know Vince Guaraldi
Oh
from
shit!
Peanuts
Yeah.
fame. So he was on Oxo Moxoa.
Hmm.
Their first album they recorded all in San Francisco when Tom Constantine joined the band on piano. Robert Hunter started to get legs with the band as a collaborator at that point. It's a fantastic album cover. Ray brought up my anthem, St. Stephen. Cosmic Charlie, also on good tune, also on that album. That is my number 9.
Okay.
Number 8 for me was their debut album. Now, their debut album again was, it's their, Mark, you put it really good, their garage album. Cold Rain and Snow is a great one. Ray, you might remember when we went to see the Dead Allman Band at Sportsman not too long ago. Cold Rain and Snow, they played.
Yes.
Off the first album, and they did a really nice job with it. But the reason I have this album so high is song 1, The Golden Road to Unlimited Devotion. And if you listen to the first line of the album is, well, everybody's dancing in a ring around the sun. Nobody's finished. We ain't even begun. And nothing says more about the Grateful Dead if that's their first line of their first song on a studio album. That talks about them incarnate. So in listening to that, seeing that, I wasn't a huge fan of their version of Good Morning Little Schoolgirl, because I think it's a classic song that so many have done over the years.
Yeah.
But when you try to throw it on there, I'm down with that. Also had the concert favorite, Sitting on Top of the World.
Yeah.
And it kind of, when critics looked at it at the start, they thought it was a huge, good starting album for them. So number 8 for me is the debut. Number 7 for me is, and a lot of you have already talked about it, I think it's the Grateful Dead's attempt at prog. Estimated Prophet. I kind of think they're shitty Dancing in the Street, but whatever. It's Terrapin Station. Great name for an album. Cool cover with the 2 turtles on the front, but not fantastic. But I'll throw it at 7 just because.
Yeah.
Number 6 for me is one I really like. It features one of my favorite Scarlet Begonias, U.S. Blues. It's From the Mars Hotel from '74. Good album. I really like it. Now we get into ones where, from 5 to 1, I love them all, but somebody's got to be 5 and somebody's got to be 1. So
there you go. Those are the
rules.
rules.
I know.
5 for me, and there's a pretty good reason why it is, and it's gotten some shit because it was kind of their disco album, and it's funky and it's reggae and this and that. It's got the kind of crappy Good Love, but it also has Stagger Lee. I like Shakedown Street, and don't forget Shakedown Street became where everyone went to say hello to each other before the show. Maybe, I guess that's the best way to put it. But yeah, it was the first album when Donna finally left, which was great. The message here was that I read, and I kind of think it's the case when you listen to it, is that Jerry had kind of gotten way into a lot of JGB stuff at that time, and maybe it wasn't his best hour when he was doing this. But you got Fire on the Mountain, I Need a Miracle. Another little known fact about this album: it was produced by the legendary Lowell George of Little Feat fame. Mm-hmm. And he sits in a little bit on Shakedown Street as well. So my number 5 is Shakedown Street.
Steve, I got a question for you.
Ask.
Do you have children?
I have one, yes.
Daughter or son?
I have a son who will be 25 next week.
Before you knew the sex of the child, was Donna in the running for a girl's name?
It wasn't even in the ballpark.
I just
It wasn't close.
He's a Donna the Buffalo fan.
There will be no Donna, damn it.
That's ironic.
I,
You love Donna the Buffalo, but don't forget.
I want to say I'm surprised, but
Don't
something's
forget
telling
Donna
me that I shouldn't be.
Donna the Buffalo wasn't their original name. Their name was going to be Dawn of the Buffalo, but they were playing at the front of a bar who had one of those slide-in letter signs, and they thought it was supposed to be Donna the Buffalo, and they.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
My number 9 is In the Dark. It's a really good pop record for them in the guise of what the Grateful Dead do. You want to do you gotta survive sometime. I mean, survive. I don't know if that's the right word. They weren't afraid of the flavor of the week or the flavor of the month, or the flavor of the year. And I thought that sometimes they just did it well. My number 8 is from the Mars Hotel, Phil Lesh. Welcome to Bassland. All right. This is a bass-driven record. It sounds great for the year, and it holds up. Yeah, Jerry, I kind of thought he was doing most of the vocal, but I know Lesh does too in that album a little bit. My number 7 is the Grateful Dead's debut, the garage pop short, dedicated, get it done, have it there, kind of going back to the reality of where it all starts and how how you become a band in a garage. I will say this: if you're a record buyer, which people get associated with, Warner Brothers green labeled versions of these vinyl sound amazing. I have one, and I was playing, and I'm like, I put this other stuff on. I'm like, what the hell happened? And so if you find those, I'm sure record stores are pretty smart these days. They don't put anything out there that they can lose money on. But look for the green. My number 6 is Blues for Allah. I feel the disconnectedness in some of it, but I do love the way they craft some of the songs. They're smart, maybe a little bit overly clever in some cases. I like that. As a matter of fact, at the very beginning of doing this, at the first, I thought Blues for Allah was going to be higher on my list. I really did, and but I fell into something. And my number 5 is Wake of the Flood. Another great sounding record, and this is where the Jerry Shuffle just so good. It's tremendous at it, and this is the one that sticks with me the most on that. It's roots jazz kind of sound here as a rule, and stellar blue. It's just lovely.
Yeah, I like that description, that shuffle. That's when the Dead are sounding their best.
Yeah.
Back to the dude.
Shuffles with all 9.5 of his fingers.
Yeah. Well, this is where I'm going to blow all you guys away because my first two, I consider them the best 2 records they've ever done. But before that, that was number 4 is Wicked the Flood. It's a fabulous album. I have no faults with it at all.
Well, you're a Phil Lesh lover, so.
Phil Lesh plays the meanest bass there is.
Yeah.
And I've seen him in concert by himself 2 or 3 times. And to listen to that guy play the bass is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I probably the most listened to album of all of them. I have it was remastered in 23. It's just ridiculous what they did. And now where I'm going to counter with all of you.
All right.
I believe
coming up,
that,
and I feel an airing of grievances coming.
Yeah, well, I'll keep my grievance to myself.
Where?
Shakedown Street, I think, is masterful. They they came up with song. I mean, all of us deadheads call it Disco Dead,
Yeah, yeah,
but it was such uh, a far away from their norm. Is the reason I like it so much. Is that and it's also their top selling album of all time.
yeah.
So, but which doesn't say much because a lot of people listen to it who wouldn't know a tune from a bucket. But and then on my number one
Excuse me.
is Terrapin Station.
Wow.
I love that album. I love every parts of it. I don't think it's too long. Um, I listened to all what you had to say, and maybe there's a small agreement, but I love Terrapin. It was one of my favorite concerts I've ever been to. Um, where all they did was the full album, and the full album takes a lot longer than the album did.
Oh, the
But
live version takes a longer time. Yeah.
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
It's an
yeah,
entire
it
day, right? You
goes
have to wait.
on and on and on. But
I was expecting that was going to be my question to you, Jeff, was going to be when because you've seen them on most of the albums, I would assume that that was going to be how you came to yours, right?
yes and no.
Okay.
I never saw um I never saw them in the dark. Saw them around that time, but it was never a concert tour with just in the dark.
Okay.
Um, Built to Last, the same thing.
Mhm.
Go to Heaven, the same thing. I did see Shakedown Street, um, but more in bits and pieces. They didn't do when they did Terrapin in '77. They did a whole tour of Terrapin. It was really really good. And the only problem with that is us deadheads you would go for a weekend or 4 days in a row, but they played the same songs every night, which is the only bummer of them. But um, as I said, as I told Steve before we started this, that I was probably going to disagree with a few of them, but
Yeah, you surprised me a little bit. You surprised me, but I got to give you props on your high ranking of Shakedown because as much of a disco album as that is, there's also like Stagger Lee is on there.
oh,
That's not a
it's a great album.
you know
If you listen to it, man, it's a
Fire on
great great album.
Fire on the Mountain's not a disco song either. There's a fair
No,
amount. Don't get
no, no, but we call it Disco Dead. You
it.
know,
I
it's
get why it's called that.
Yeah, it's always been called that. Yep, yep, yep.
yeah, yeah.
Ray, you got 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes, sir. All right. So, In the Dark was the big comeback of comebacks for the band. It had been a number of years since a studio release. I think what 7 years by that point.
Mhm.
Really, my first full introduction to a full Dead album was actually working at Classic Hits 104.1 at the time for just over a year, and this album with a number of other albums from 1987 were new to the format, and there were a bunch of us actually calling out to random people and playing pieces of songs to get them to rate songs to determine if we play them, which is a funny memory. But obviously, Touch of Grey, Throwing Stones, Hell in a Bucket all made the cut.
Hell in a bucket,
Album,
man.
uh,
I think that's the better of all of them.
and the album and the videos, took the Dead to a much wider audience by that point.
Hmm.
They'd never live up to the success of this one in the studio, sadly, after that. But definitely a great album. These top four are definitely just spectacular when it comes to albums. Um, because as I mentioned early on, just so many of them just were not complete albums, just good jams, but just a collection of songs. Number three, the debut came out in the heart of this whole psychedelic era, but somehow, some way, I just don't associate this album with that era, despite coming out of San Francisco with all those other trippy bands of the day. This was just a fun album for me. It just beat it on down the line. It was just a good boogie kind of feeling of a tune. New Minglewood Blues, Cold Rain and Snow. Those are both really good tracks. Morning Dew was another good track. And Good Morning Little Schoolgirl. It was good sounding record. I might have discovered their version of that song before the older ones. Actually,
Probably.
really surprised at how good a debut this was, and I've really enjoyed listening to that over the past week or so. Just real standout from '67 in an era, aside from a handful of albums that were just, I don't know, just are very dated these days. This was one that was not.
Mhm.
Number two, in 1969 and 70, many great albums, bands were putting out many great multiple albums in one year. Zeppelin did it in 69. CCR did it. They actually put out three albums in 69. Grand Funk did it. And then in 1970, The Dead did it. And their 1970 releases, beyond anything for me, were simply their best. Worlds apart over the rest of the catalog for me. Working Man's Dead in at number two was likely the first one that really reached a wider audience for the band. They went from jam band experimentation and a lot of that not really great sounding stuff prior to that to really a more acoustic sound. This is where the blues met the country, met the folk, and this one included their first radio hit was Uncle John's Band on it.
Uncle Johnson.
Of course, Casey Jones, right? One of the few Dead tunes over the years that you would hear regularly on classic rock radio. Cumberland Blues, another standout tune. The flow of this album was unlike pretty much any other one outside of the top three.
Mhm.
And then Slam Dunk on number one for me, one of 1970's best overall albums, American Beauty. It was a period of time, in my estimation, from 1968 to 1972, the best 5 year period in rock history. This album built upon the success and the greatness of the predecessor that I just discussed. Standout tracks including Box of Rain, Candyman, Friend of the Devil, and of course the outstanding Truckin', right? Possibly the greatest of all the Dead songs for me that rips me every time I hear it is Ripple. Oh my God, I love that tune. So good, so good. These top two albums I could listen to continuously. The rest of their library, I could listen to it once and I'd be done for a while and then go into the live albums and enjoy it. But American Beauty, ladies and gentlemen, number one.
Steve.
I don't know how to top that.
Well, you'll just have to do more. One.
Yeah, exactly. So my number
Four.
was was what I kind of consider one of their more jazz influenced albums. Final album they did on Grateful Dead Records too. I like Blues for Allah. Again, Ray brought up one of my favorite Dead songs, Franklin's Tower. Also, The Music Never Stops is a good one. Franklin's Tower, often compared with Walk on the Wild Side by Lou Reed with that type of rhythm. Help is on the Way as well. Another concert staple for the Dead. Again, that's my number 4. Love the album. Love it. Number 3 for me, and I don't know that it's a comeback album from the standpoint that they didn't do a studio album in 7 years. But I don't know if I necessarily call it a comeback per se. That album, estimation, of course, I'm talking about In the Dark. Um, I think that album, songs end to end, is fantastic. And Mark, you brought up how much you like Hell in a Bucket. One of the reasons I don't necessarily call it a comeback album is if you listen to West LA Fadeaway, West LA Fadeaway would fit on any Grateful Dead album. It just has that rhythm, that gear, that thing that they always had in them. You talk about all the other ones. The one I love, their slow one, is Black Muddy River. Um, Great tune, nice slow jam. Everything else is standard fare, but I ranked that maybe a little higher. I love the In the Dark album, and not necessarily for the commercial success, because any
Right.
deadhead will tell you we don't want any commercial success. And I'm with Brother Ray on 1 and 2, and in the same order. Working Man's Dead, a stud album. And it's funny because previous to that, they had done that Oxamoxa. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. It cost them a ton of money, and it took them 6 months to do. Working Man's Dead took them 9 days. And it's highly acclaimed. More, and that those early albums were a lot more psychedelic. This was more folksy country. Ray brought up a lot of the tunes. I'll bring up New Speedway Boogie, which I think is a little under acclaimed, good tune, but everything else on there is all the standard bearers. From Working Man's Dead, and that's my number 2. And my number 1, American Beauty. It's just a wonderful, great album. Didn't hurt that David Grisman played a pretty good sized role in that album, and went on to, partner up with Jerry till Jerry's passing. Ironically, the only album where Pigpen has a vocal credit. Again, Friend of the Devil. I'm with Ray. World Truckin' and Sugar Magnolia get a lot of the acclaim. In my opinion, and not that my opinion matters, Ripple's the best song on that album by a landslide. And those two, I think it's pure magic that those two albums came out in the same year and are that good. So,
Amen.
This much like all you folks, going back through this, it was just a walk back that I truly appreciated the opportunity to do. This has been fun.
So
I gotta say something.
Go ahead.
I've been listening for the last hour about this Donna, and she gets so much hell.
Yeah.
But she was really very, very good. And not always did her style and the Dead style match. But there's some songs that she does that are awesome. And Ray and Stino, I love them. But when it comes to Donna, I beg to differ.
when they play live, is there somebody that does that part now? That's
No.
That part was written for her.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she started off as a I saw her for about a year off and on the shows I saw. Um, she just do backup vocal, and then slowly she got into it. But I still think she was a grateful part of the Dead. And without her, I don't think the Dead would have been the Dead. But that's my humble opinion.
Wow.
So on that note, I'll give my final four. Yeah, I in my when her parts came on, I had this sinking feeling that it should have been Janice. That's my thought process, right? That's I guess that's why it didn't,
There.
you know. Not that that's where it probably been anyway. But my number four, Working Man's Dead. My number three, American Beauty. I put them together because they probably should have put them together. It might have been the greatest double album of all time in the folk Americana, their version of it. You know, they might have been the first all country band to ever really exist because it's not country. I mean, it's just stellar stuff. Casey Jones. I come on, I can't. Anyway, and Beatles esque in a way, how it's melodied and obviously in its influence. But what it really happens for me is I'm a psychedelic lover, and
Really?
the anthem of the sun, it feeds that craving for me. You know, just in actuality, there are people that are discussing this to be one of the greatest psychedelic records of the time.
Hmm.
And I didn't really realize that until I was looking at research and stuff. Um, I would say there's some other people that like have that torch too. They might have made it a little more radio friendly, but and Mickey Hart, you know, did anybody double drum anymore? I was that even a start? Was that even a thing back in 1968? By the way, we need two drummers. Who says that? And my number one is Oxymoxoa. This to me is the
Oh,
bitter, the sweet, the rock, the road,
Wow.
the I love the production on the record. It's got this anthemic rock perfectness to it, and how it reaches and holds and squeezes, and yes, um, you know, the inclusion of Mr. Peanut there is an accolade that I enjoy immensely. So when I did this, I would have thought it would come out another way. Some of these albums had only one listen before I ever, you know, like back in the day, and to go back, I was stunned by. But I'll tell you what, Working Man's Dead, American Beauty, those are. If I was to say to somebody where to start, those would probably be the albums I suggest.
Right.
Unless, of course, I know they love Morrison and Cream, and then I'd say, well, okay, you might want to get into. And the Anthem of the Sun, the re-recording of it, the remaster is stellar. I don't know what the, you know, it's funny when they do the remasters. Think, was the other guy asleep at the switch? Did they not do it right? And somebody else got, hey, what the hell were you doing? But I'll never understand that kind of stuff. But it's really really good. Yeah, Stephen, you wanted to mention something toward the end, I think.
Oh, I just wanted to talk about, you know, the fact that I mean, you brought up the fact, where would you have people start? And as much as I can appreciate the studio stuff, I think there's a couple live albums that you could mention that would be as good a starting point as any. And I know that when I got my start in listening to them, you know, pretty early on in college, and you know, around the time when I was high school into college is when In the Dark came out. But I think on a live standpoint, Europe 72 would be a really good start with everything that's on that. Um, you know, and back in the day, you know, if you had somebody now that was doing it, when I was a kid, the only way you had Cornell 77 was on a cassette that you happened to steal from somebody or you happened to fall into to get that, because that was a bootleg of what's, you know, been argued as their greatest live album or live show ever.
Mhm.
Though, you know, other Grateful Dead people will tell you that their best show was the next night here in Buffalo, because they played Cornell on May 8th, 77, and they played Buffalo May 9th of 77. So I think that would be a really good starting point. Ray brought up a couple of the other ones, but yeah, I you know, I'm a huge live Dead guy. But yeah, like I said, walking back through this is great. I think their catalog is iconic. If I had to rank it, it's generational music. It's memorable to to the masses, and I think it holds up over time. So
Yeah. I think we're all there. It's probably why I'm not asking that question that we normally ask is where is this in your wheelhouse? Is it iconic? Is it
yeah,
is it gathered? No, they are a band that a child will be born next week that will eventually succumb to the catalog and find its way.
But it's like we've talked about other bands, acquired taste, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's acquired taste. It's the tragically hip.
And I can believe this, and
All
being
right.
the outsider on the conversation, some of my takeaways to this are remarkably and very uniquely consistent across the catalog. And that's taking into account the other three evaluators, not just Chef Jeff's splitting of hairs from 14 to number one with a margin of difference. So I find a remarkable consistency across how everyone has spoken about the catalog, minus Donna. Apparently,
Right.
Yeah, there's something that'll
right.
be that's like people talking about the inclusion of backup singers for the hip, and adding female vocal or Gord Downey picking up a guitar. I didn't like it. Didn't do anything for me. I thought it took away from the show, but it's still what it is, right?
Or
So,
Gary
Yeah.
Sharon, yeah.
So I
yes.
just thought that those are some of the takeaways I got from it. Wanting to give Chef Jeff a little more light here on this. I think from a more vague, broad question to you, what about each album? And I'm not saying name each of them individually. What about each album makes it so hard to differentiate? And what were the things you looked for to pull these apart? Because I know how hard this was for you.
Well, I'll start with the second question first. I had to go off of muscle memory. I gravitate to certain songs like we all do. That's why there's thousands and millions of songs out there, and we each have our opinions on each one of them.
Yep.
And it's in those terms I figured this out, and I didn't come to an answer till about yesterday. I was able to put them in a particular order, and I'm sure it surprised some people. I'm sure our audience of three will will conclude that it was very difficult for me, but I got it done. Um,
A labor of love.
yeah, it was it was definitely a labor. I don't know about love. It's like telling you to pick which is your favorite 13 kids. You know?
I'll say, like, just from watching the four of you evaluate, and Sue, I'm curious your thought, but at first it was stunningly similar. And then all of a sudden, like right around 7, it like broke apart and split a little bit, it seemed like.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, I think it came down to opinions and personal experiences and Donna. But I want to hear Donna now. I want to hear what all that was about. She's very pretty from the photos I saw.
Who knew the Grateful Dead episode would just come to the conclusion that the hot button topic is now Donna.
I'm sure
Well,
we
all
could have
right.
touched on a
Hey,
whole
it's
bunch of
been
other
it's
topics.
I
it's
had to bring it up. If I
Yeah.
did not brought it up,
Saint Stephen,
it's
come
my.
on.
I know it's my.
Yes, I'll thank the panel for doing this tonight. It is an almost a daunting task. I don't know. Next year, I'm thinking of doing one that's even larger. We'll see. These times they are a changing. What?
Oh shit, that means he's gonna do now. That's what I call music, all 100+ volumes.
We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course. Articles, videos, podcasts coming whenever I deem myself necessary. Stay tuned. We're getting down to the wire. I have Keep It Dark, my interview with Mellow Death. Isabel from Germany is coming up this Thursday, and that's a great interview. Talk about dark jazz. And then we're going to be obviously getting to the panelists' favorite albums of 2025. That show, that'll be another good one. Go beyond your radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. Thanks for watching in this hour 72-minute show. Thanks
Don't
again for
watch
watching.
it'll go by quicker.
Yeah, happy listening.